Babes, and welcome to my book nook.
We are monsters. We give and we take.
For those that are new around here, the name's Rainy. I read all different types of books, primarily fantasy romance, so if you're interested in that, please like and subscribe to my channel down below. Today's video is episode 1 of 3 of end of year content where I share the best, the worst, the disappointing, the surprising books that I read in 2024. And yes, I feel confident sharing this list now because the books that I am currently reading are not going to be best books. They're not disappointing me. They're not surprising me. Like, I know where they're going to land. And so with that being said, today's video is episode 1 where we are going to be lumping together my most disappointing books of 2024 and my most surprising books. Now, some of these books might also end up popping up in my best books and worst books just because if they disappointed me that much but they were bad, then they might be on there. Whereas they surprised me and they were spectacular, they might be in the best books. So you might see repeats of these. Tomorrow I'm going to be showing my worst books and then Monday I'm going to be doing my best books. Because I want to make sure that I have this stuff out sooner than later. Because I know that people are doing best books data, and then I'm also doing best books data. So with that being said, I have a lot of disappointing books, unfortunately, and I have a good amount of surprising. So this one might take a little longer than the other ones. I don't necessarily have them in order, except for like when we get to like the last 2 to 3, then those are the ones that were most disappointing to me or were most surprising to me. So with that being said, let's start with disappointing. But first, let me put my disclaimer. If there is a book on here that you absolutely love with your whole chest and I didn't really appreciate it as much as you, that's fine. That's why I love that books hit us all differently. I do have to preface this with saying that my children are literally right outside the door, so if you hear them, I can't really help it. I have to film now. But let me prioritize this by saying, I love that books hit all of us differently and that my favorite book ever might be a book that you DNF'd and just didn't care for. But at the end of the day, I like what I like, you would like what you like, and we're all allowed to be in this space and coexist all together. That's why reading is fantastic. So, with that being said, now let's dive into my most disappointing reads. Okay, so the first book, a lot of these books you will notice I'm going to have to pop up a book because I don't hold on to disappointing books. If a book was like 3-star or less, I typically don't keep it on my shelves, except for sometimes, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, but the first book that I have is, I was disappointed because I really wanted to love this, but I kind of went into it knowing that it might not be for me. So it wasn't like the most disappointing thing in the world, but like I still wanted to like it. And that's Fireborn by Rosaria Munda. I just gave it a 3. I was kind of bored, honestly. It was way too political. I feel like parts of it just went over my head and I felt like I wasn't smart enough for it, which like I know that I am, so it was just kind of frustrating. I mean, it's a dragon book. People say that it's like the better version of Fourth Wing, and I don't necessarily think I agree with that because I just ate Fourth Wing up and I literally just did my reread of it and it still stands as strong for me as it was back then. But this one is still sad because I know that it's good. Like, the writing is incredible for a debut YA author. Like, it's fantastic, and I do still recommend this book. It just didn't work for me, unfortunately. Sad day indeed. Then the next book we have, I actually had to read because my friend Julie gave it to me in my booktuber taste test with her. I think she was like episode 3. And that is Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. Now, I know that this is a beloved series by many. I felt like it was a popular series that I just hadn't gotten around to yet. And so I was excited to get into it. However, it kind of fell flat for me. It was a 3-star. It was another one of those. I just didn't care what was going on. It was boring. It wasn't holding my attention. I literally couldn't tell you really anything that happened in it because by the end of it, I was just skimming, listening to it as quickly as I could so that I could finish it for the vlog, and so I'm not going to continue on with it. I have no interest in reading her adult version of like Throne of Secrets or whatever. I know they like are co-intertwined, and maybe this author is just not for me. The next one really frustrates me because I've loved every other book that I've read by this author, and that is The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn. I've read every other book. Gone Girl, Sharp Objects, what's the other one? I've read all of those and given them 5 stars, and this one was really bad. I think I gave it a 2, but maybe it might be a 1. It was like this little horror novella that was like a haunted-esque house, and the ending was just so stupid. I was just like, what was the point of this novella? If I say at the end of a book, what was the point of this, then I'm really angry. Like, that just reminds me of Cabin at the End of the World, which that is literally my least favorite book of all time. That served no purpose. But this one, I was just like, what was the purpose of that? And I don't understand the people that are saying this was a masterpiece. I do not agree. I do declare this is not a masterpiece. It just frustrated me, and I'm just sad that it's on here. The next one we have, I actually read for my friends Laura and Beatrice's book club, The Sibs, and while I enjoyed the book, it's still disappointing, and so let's talk about why. And that is Happiness Falls by Angie Kim. I can't remember right now. The Happiness Falls. And this one I was really excited about because she writes her books with autistic main characters and main representation, which I was already hesitant on because I never know if it's going to be done right, because I do, if you don't know, I have one severely autistic brother and then I have one with Asperger's, so like I do care about that sort of thing. And I actually think it was done really well. That wasn't what bothered me. It is labeled and marketed as a thriller, and clearly it's a mystery, and it's not even a great mystery because when you find, I'm so sorry if you hear her shouting in the background. Oh my gosh, she's being so loud. It's not even a great mystery because you find out the reveal of like what actually happened, like what the mystery was. I was just kind of like, no, that was just too easy. I just didn't love that. So unfortunately, this fell into the 3-star territory, which is really just so awful for me. The next one I actually got recommended to in Battle of the Booktubers, and this book on paper is a book that I should love, okay? Serpent and Dove by Shelby Morin. I should love this. It is a witch hunter, enemies to lovers, like classic book. And it really has all of the tropes, all of the elements, all of the things that I should love. However, I did not love it, and I'm very sad about it. I literally can't tell you where this book went wrong. I literally can't tell you. But it did, and it got a 2-star for me because I was just so unbelievably bored, and it was like 550 pages long, and it was a slog. It was a slog. I'm so sad. I would say I would go back to try it again, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to force myself to do that. So unfortunately, this is just a book that really did miss for me. The next one saddens me because I know that a lot of people are obsessed with this series. And while I love this series as a whole, this last book really ruined it for me. And it's Painted All Red, which is the 5th book in the Mind F series by S.T. Abbey. The ending of this was so over the top and ridiculous and obnoxious and frustrating that I just am like, the first 4 books were like great. We had so much build up. This was just so good. And then we get to the last one and I kind of feel like shit just hit the fan. I don't know if the author didn't know how to finish the ending, but like I feel like we kind of backtracked on all the things that we were working towards, and it was just too easy. It was just too frustrating. It was really annoying. And so like I do still really enjoy this series, but I can't shout its praises from the rooftops because the ending really frustrated me. Now I could be the only one that thinks that, but I do think this could have ended better. It could have handled a good old rewrite. Next one we have is actually an arc that I got, and this book was popping up a lot on the Bookstagram space, and like this, it's a new debut author, and the thing that got me with this book was that she said it was Hermione coded. And, you know, Draco Hermione. And so I went into it, and that is Illusion of Stars, and I'm blanking on the name of the author right now. But the problem with this is that it wasn't even that it wasn't Hermione coded, which it didn't really feel much like that to me. It was more the writing was so, what's the word, disjointed. Like it was just choppy. It didn't flow well. Like the sentences didn't make sense sometimes. I feel like it was one of those instances where it's like not everybody should be a writer, or people need to, like some people can just write easily and never have really written a book before and it works. And some it's like you might need more help with editing and things. I don't really know. I'm not trying to like be awful about this, but it was just all right. I don't know. I don't have more to say on this book. Next one, I don't actually have the physical copy anymore because I literally sold it this morning, and so I put it on Pango, and that is A Reign of Rose by Kate Golden, but really the whole Sacred Stones trilogy as a whole. Because the first book, fabulous, wonderful, kicking my feet, giggling. The second book, all right, meh, could be better. The third one, the ending was just so poor to me that I can't recommend this series, and I'm sad about it. I'm sad that I sold my special editions of this. I'm sad that I sold my regular editions of this, but I couldn't be bothered to continue with this series, and I'm not sure if I'll read anything else from this author in the future because clearly she doesn't know how to continue and end a series in a way that is good to me. Editing Rainy coming on here really quick. I somehow skipped 2 books in my most disappointing reads. And I only noticed because when I uploaded all the images that I had pre-ready to go, I saw 2 that I had not talked about. So really quickly, I want to also shout out Immortal Dark by Tyga Skirma. And I read this for Tori's Who Did This To You book club, I think back in October. And it was like a dark academia, vampires, enemies to lovers type situation. And it was just so incredibly boring and dragged out a lot. And I just wasn't interested. And like, the thing is though, when I was reading it physically, I was enjoying it, and when I switched to audio, I wasn't. And so I feel like I could try again one day, but I don't know. I just am very sad. I didn't really care for it. It was just a 3.5 star. Like, it is what it is. And then the other one that I definitely wanted to make sure I talked about is A Crown That's Cold and Heavy by Stacey S. Stark. This is the third book in the Kingdom of Lies series. I loved books 1 and 2. They were 4.5 stars, popcorn reads. This was like a 3, maybe even a 2.5. Because she literally ruins the relationship in this. It went from like all of this like intellectual, like emotional connection and like also smut to like just being smut. Like every time they saw each other it was smut, smut, smut. All they said to each other was like sexy comments. And it really, really, really took me out of the story of the love that I had for books 1 and 2. I'm not very excited to move on to book 4. This one literally hurts my soul because this book wasn't gonna be on here. And then yesterday it ended up on here and it makes me want to cry. Makes me want to cry. And that is Apples Dipped in Gold by Scarlett St. Clair. And if you look, the bookmark is still in here because I'm just too sad to take the bookmark out. This was a highly anticipated buddy read between me and Brittany. And then Neva tagged on because she wanted to read it with us. And we had loved Mountains Made of Glass. Like, loved the first book in this fairy tale retelling series. Like, loved it. And then this one came out and we prioritized it and we finally got to it. And it did not have the same magic that the first book did. I don't even recognize this compared to the other book. It was boring, and I was gonna keep going because it's only 200 pages long, and I was like, oh, I can keep going. But then I just didn't want to. And then I thought about, yeah, sure, maybe I have an hour, 20 minutes left on audio, but what else could I do in an hour and 20 minutes that would better serve my time than keep forcing myself to read a book that's ultimately going to get a 3-star? And honestly, 3 stars are worse than 2 or 1 stars because I don't really have anything to say about this book. It was boring. It didn't have the same magic. I'm not going to continue on with the series, but I'm just going to pretend that Mountains Made of Glass was a one-off, honestly, because this was not it. Let's talk about a book that I'm so sad about. And yes, I should get rid of this because this was a raging 1-star, but I will not when you find out what book it is. And that is Never by Jessa Hastings, okay? I read that this year. It's beautiful. It's magical. It's all the things. But the writing, the content is not. Miss Jessa did me dirty in this one. She did me dirty, okay? She did me dirty. I didn't like this. Every character was insufferable. I hated Wendy. I hated Hook. I hated Peter Pan. I hated everything about this book. There are some questionable connotations and things in this book. It is not good. I have a whole rant video on this if you want more pure entertainment. I'm so saddened by this book, but I will not get rid of it because it is beautiful and because it's Miss Jessa, even though I should. I should. And you're going to think I'm crazy when I say I'm going to continue on to book 2 just to see if it can get better. But Magnolia Parks might be her magnum opus, and that might be all she can write, honestly. And then the last disappointing book. And this one, it hurts me to have it on here, okay? It hurts my soul. Songbird in the Heart of Stone by Clarissa Broadbent. And yes, I did annotate the crap out of it. And maybe you're gonna be like, why is this disappointing then? Because you gave it a 4. On reflection, it's really more a 3.5 because I was so unbelievably bored for the first third, maybe 40% of this book, okay? First off, it's a journey and a quest book. And we all know I'm not a journey quest girly, okay? Second, the main dude in this book, like the love interest that I was supposed to care for, had no personality. He was flat as cardboard for most of this book. And then the thing that bothered me is that, unlike in the first books, all of the relationship stuff seems to be off page. Like, this was a journey that took weeks and weeks, and it just flew by so fast because most of it we didn't get to see. It was like talked about not in the book. And I don't know if this is a publisher thing and they made her take out the essence that is her, because this book doesn't even feel the same to Serpents and Ashes, but it just wasn't. And so I'm very sad because this was my most anticipated read of the year, and I just want to cry when I think about how this did not hold up even a little bit. Now, I will still continue this series, and I will collect special editions of this, but I'm very saddened by this being on this list. All right, friends, let's get all of the negativity out of the way and let's go to most surprising. Let's do it. And let's start off with one that I actually read. There was this paid book recommendation company, I think called TBR or something like that, where you can pay like $25 and you tell them like your taste and your interest and all the things, and then they give you back 3 book recommendations. And so I did do that, and it was actually an epic fail with 2 of the books. I DNF'd one. I 2-starred another, but this one got a 4-star for me and it was really good. And that is The Night Hunt. I can't remember who it is by, but it's by the same person that wrote To Kill a Kingdom. And this was just so fun. Can I tell you what it was about at this present time when I read it, like at the beginning of the year? No. So it's not ultimately a favorite, but I had so much fun when I read it. It was cute. I loved the characters. I loved the romance. I loved all the different monsters and the world building. It just felt so unique and fresh for a YA fantasy book. And so I really did enjoy it. And I would read more books from that author because this was such a fun, delightful time that I honestly wasn't expecting. I had never heard of this book before they recommended it to me. The next book that is on here is one that I feel conflicted about putting on here, but let's just talk about it. And that's Feybound by Sarah Ella Reefy, because I did give this a 3.5. However, the thing is, it's like I was bored at this book and I'd be about to DNF it, but then something would happen and I would just be so intrigued. It's like the writing is really good. It was just parts of it that I was like, man, this is dragging. But it wasn't even like long parts. It would be like 20 pages and I would be like, oh, this is the end of the world. And then it'd pick back up and something would be really intriguing. Like, I'm intrigued enough to where I think I do want to read the next book. Like, I really don't know what to say about this book, because like I liked it and I didn't. I liked it and I didn't. I liked it and I didn't. It felt like one of those like I love you and I hate you type moments. Like, he loves me, he loves me not, like the flower type situations. But I did like it. It surprised me. I just don't know, friends. I just don't know. The next one was actually recommended to me by my friend in a battle of the genres, I guess. My friends had to each, Nell and Katie each gave me a book for that of romance. And to be fair, Nell lost because she gave me a YA romance, and I'm not really big on YA very much, and that was my own bad. But Katie gave me Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. And I didn't really know what to expect going into this book. Like, I like contemporary romances, but it's not like they're the best things I've ever read. I ate this up. I had so much fun with this. A lot of people don't like this book because they say that it goes way too much into the wedding planning and the floral planning and the cake decorating and everything. I was living for that. I was living my best life with that. Do I think that this second chance romance would actually work in the real world and that they would continue on to have a beautiful life? Probably not. But I just thought this was so well written, and I'm not surprised because Julie Soto does a lot of fan fiction writing, which I'm so excited. One of her books is getting published into a regular, traditionally published book, a Hermione one. Obviously, it's not Hermione anymore, and I will be reading that. But yeah, I have not continued on with any other Julie Soto novels, which I don't know why, but this was such an epic hit for me that I'm really excited to continue. Up next is at least the first book. Just the first book, okay? Because that's all I've gotten to so far. And that is The Darker Shade of Magic. I'm not going to take it out of this box. By V.E. Schwab. I did this as a buddy read with Katie and Danny, and I actually loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I think we all gave it 4 or 5 stars. It was really intriguing. I was not expecting it. I really thought the banter between the two main characters was just top notch, and I was here for it. It was adventurous, but it had tension, but it had playfulness. It was just fun. Now, when we talk about the second book, which I probably should have put on disappointing, but I didn't because I haven't finished it yet. I'm just so bored, and I can't say why I'm bored because like that will spoil the end of book 1. But let's just say the first one hits. The next one is a book that a lot of people don't like, but I just liked it, and that is The Fury by Alex Michaelides. Now, he wrote one of my favorite thrillers of all time, The Silent Patient, and then he also wrote a piece of garbage called The Maidens in between, and then he came out with this, and a lot of people aren't liking this, because he breaks the fourth wall, he's very, pompous, he's just very, I don't know how to explain it, but I really liked it. I feel like this is a very theater kid coded book. And I mean like the weird, nerdy theater kid that like that's their life, that's their jam, okay? This is for those type of people. Just like Temper by Lane Fargo is one of those, okay? Those are our theater kids books. If We Were Villains, those are all within this realm, okay? I thought it was funny. I really liked it. I didn't take it too seriously because it's not a book that you should take too seriously. I just had the best time with this. So honestly, I would reread this because it really was a blast. Up next is another book that we've talked about already, but not the same book, a different book in that series, and that is Mountains Made of Glass by Scarlett St. Clair. Now, why is this one on here? Because I was surprised. I had never read a Scarlett St. Clair book before. I think I had kind of avoided them because I'm not really a huge Hades and Persephone's like Greek mythological retelling person, and I'd heard that she was extremely spicy, and while I love a good amount of spice, I need there to be more plot than there is spice, and I hadn't heard that about her, so I was hesitant. However, this was fantastic. This is the best fairy tale retelling that I have read. It was so top notch in how it tied in everything of the fairy tale retelling, but was also still unique to itself. It's Beauty and the Beast meets Rumpelstiltskin, okay? And it was smutty. It was well written. It was cute. It has little pictures all throughout. Honestly, this was such a perfect little novella. That's why it's going to forever be a standalone in my mind, but I loved it. I loved it, and I think everybody should read this little beauty. The next one is one that I wasn't sure if I would like because I've heard that it got taken off of Amazon for being too promiscuous. And that is The Dare by Harley LaRue. Yes, this is a special edition because I got a special edition of this and The Losers before I even knew if I was going to like them. And this is the little novella that you should read beforehand. It's only like 100 pages, and I loved this. Was it way too much? Yes. Is it a bully romance? Yes. Am I a big bully romance girl? No. But this and Zodiac Academy have worked for me so far. However, I did read Punk 57 by Penelope Douglas. Hated that book. So like there are bully romances that don't work. This one, I will say, is not for the faint of heart. There is a lot of weird, kinky things that happen in this book. And so I highly recommend checking the trigger warnings. There are many of them. But if it works for you, then go for it. Up next is another book that was recommended to me in Battle of the Booktubers by the winner of our round, who I am competing against again very soon, Miss Kirsten. And that is Trial of the Sun Queen by Nisha J. Tooley. When she recommended this to me, I owned this book, but I hadn't really thought anything of this book because the only things that I had heard this book being compared to was like Hunger Games meets like The Bachelor, and I wasn't really sure how I felt about that. I thought it was just going to be like kind of like a standard popcorn read, like 3-4 star, like nothing special. But it was a 4.5. I had so much fun with this book. I really enjoyed it. And a lot of people say that it's poorly written. My friend Katie DNF'd it because she didn't like it. I just don't know what people were reading. I thought it was cute. I thought it was fun. Is it going to like change my life forever? No. But I really liked it. And I have since bought the rest of the series because I want to continue on with it. And I'm very happy that I read it because, yeah, I don't know if it was just like a right time, right moment type of situation, but like it was fun. It was whimsical. I read it really quickly. I recommend it. Then we have a book that I wasn't sure if I was going to like because I didn't know if Wide Shoes was like really my thing. And also, I don't know. I just feel like when a book is hyped so much that you just don't know if you're going to like it. But boy, did I love it. And that is Bonded by Thorns by Elizabeth Helen. Okay, this is a sister writing duo. This is another Beauty and the Beast retelling, which that's probably my favorite retellings. That's one of the only ones I end up reading. This Wide Shoes romance between these 4 fae princes, okay? Everything to me. Do I know which one's my favorite yet? No. Do I love all of them and wish that they were all real figures? Yes. Okay. This was fun. This was smutty. This was a fun, cute little time. Okay. I read it in one day with my friend Katie for our Tortured Readers book club. I have moved on to book 2. I'm almost done with book 3. I'm just eating this series up. It has really sparked my love for Wide Shoes romance. And so I'm so excited to keep on reading. Down to my last 2 books. And these 2 are the most surprising of all. I read them both for my Goodreads Romantasy Best Books Challenge. And the first is The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. This is a cozy fantasy, okay? I was not supposed to love this book, and that I did. I gave it a 4.5 stars. It had stakes. I think that was the main thing that really like deterred me from other cozy fantasies, is that the characters takes up so much space that there's not really any plot, and then I'm just kind of like, okay, well, what are we doing here? Like, that's kind of what Legends and Laches felt like to me. But this had a plot and a cute little romance and a cute little sentient plant character. Like, we stand that. The only thing that I was sad about is that these little winged cat creatures weren't more prevalent in the story. And then I found out that there's a prequel to this book coming out soon that you better believe I'm gonna order. I thought I was gonna have to unhaul this bad boy, and it is staying in my collection because this was just so cute. I just loved it the whole time I was reading it, and I would definitely reread it because I just had so much fun with this book, surprisingly. And the number 1 book that surprised me this year. Number 1 book that surprised me, also from the Goodreads Romantasy, that might even be in the top 10. Like, I haven't finalized yet. The Honey Witch by Sydney J. Shields. This is also cozy fantasy. I thought this was beautiful, okay? This is the book that has gotten the closest to making me shed a tear. Like, I felt a tear welling in my eye. Like, that is serious business, okay? And this one is just about our girl Marigold, who she can never be in love because of a curse that's been set on her by her family. She's a honey witch. And of course, it's the story of her falling in love, figuring out her magic. And this touches so beautifully on the grieving process. Like, there's something that happens to Marigold, and I can't say what it is, but there's something so magical about the grieving process and how it pictures it and like displays it. And just, there was a scene at the end that makes me want to cry when I think about it because it was just so beautifully done. This book is beautiful. And a lot of people say it drags. I didn't really think that it did. I just really appreciate this book. I think it's a beautiful book. I think more people should read this book. I am highly encouraged by this book. I love this book. I really do. Like, I can't wait to read future books that this author writes because this was just so beautifully done. And that is all of my most disappointing and most surprising books. If you got to the end of this, let's put a bumblebee emoji for the honey witch, or honey, or whatever, something to represent this book. And let me know if any of these books were disappointing or surprising to you, or what your most disappointing or surprising book was, because I would love to know that. And then stay tuned for episode 2 tomorrow, which is worst books. And I also want to say thank you to all of my residents and patrons. They are my fabulous people that I love so very much, and I appreciate you for allowing me to keep creating the type of content that I do. If you're interested in learning more about that, I'll always have information about it underneath my video. It's all friends themed. We love it over there. And you can follow me on all social media platforms at rainybluereads. And with that, my friends, I will see you in a video very soon.